My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to This Is Metal. And as always, along with me for the ride is my wonderful co-host, Joe Lawson. Welcome to the show, Joe. How are you doing today?
Doing good.
Now, Joe, we're going to be talking, I want people to know about all things Sean Peck. And for anybody who's a Sean Peck fan, you know, he's got to be about, if not the busiest man, one of the busiest men in metal. I mean, let's just go down the list here, Joe. I mean, most people know Sean Peck from his band Cage, but he's got so many other projects he's involved. He's got Cage these days, the Three Tremors. He's got Death Dealer, and and there's also another project he was involved in with a couple of members of King Diamond. It was called Dinner Sherman. And Joe, which you guys are going to get to hear later on, he did an interview recently with Sean Peck. So, Joe, let's get right into it. First of all, talk a little about what it was like for you to interview Sean.
It was cool. You know, I'm kind of green to that whole end of things. I'm used to doing interviews, but not conducting them. So it was a different pair of shoes, but it was comfortable because Sean's a friend, and we got a lot in common, you know, and similar background and similar musical interests and all of that. So it was very comfortable for me talking to him. And like I said, I've known him for a while, so it was natural and comfortable for me, a good way to break into it. And we talked about some really pretty interesting things, and I'm looking forward to
and I think
connected out there to people.
And Joe sent me a link of interview to check out that he did, and I think what people are going to dig about it is, at least what I dug about it was kind of like two lead singers, you know, from different bands, of course, you know, kind of hanging out and chatting up kind of the industry and what it's like to do what they do. I mean, what was that like for you, you know, Joe, to interview a guy that's, you know, reached kind of a plateau of success Sean Peck has, and, you know, and you're also out there doing your thing with Scream Kings and Dragon Lore. I mean, that had to be kind of fun, two singers just sitting there and kind of talking biz, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I could talk all day to him. It was, you know, like I said again, it just felt very natural, very comfortable, and you know, there's a lot to talk about. Like you said, he's got so many different projects, and he's involved in so many different things that there was a lot of ground to cover, and the time went by faster than I thought it would actually.
Yeah, and now let me ask you, Joe, because you're a lead singer, as people know yourself, and you got two distinct bands yourself. When I listen to like the latest Death Dealer album that's coming out November 13th on Sean Peck's own Steel Cartel Records, you know, I gotta say, like, Death Dealer has its own identity. It sounds nothing like Cage or the Three Tremors, and I'd imagine as a singer that's really hard to do. And I know that's something you struggled with over years yourself, but very much like Sean Peck, I mean, does with his bands, Dragon Lore and Scream King sound nothing alike. But my question to you as a singer, Joe, is that something that's really hard to accomplish?
Honestly, no. I mean, to a certain extent, I think that, you know, you have the voice that you have, and people are going to identify with it. With whatever you put out there, they're going to know that that's you.
Yeah,
At a certain point, they're going to recognize your voice, and Sean's definitely done that for himself as well. You know, he's got his own identity as a singer, and people know when they hear, you know, when they hear that voice. You know, the fans, at least fans like myself, real honest metal fans. When I listen to it, I don't need more than 5 to 10 seconds, and I can tell you, no, that's Sean Peck.
And like you were telling people top of a show tonight that Sean Peck's a friend. You know, he's like a mutual acquaintance in that, and you've talked to him, I know, over, you know, Facebook and stuff like that. But you actually were a few weeks ago sharing me a story that you know, when you were kind of out of work and Sean Peck had a concert in your local area. You know, to tell that story if you remember what I'm talking about, Joe.
Yeah. Three Tremors came around on tour, and I really wanted to go see him, but I was out of work and didn't have the money to go out to the city and all of that. So I didn't go, and wasn't planning on going. And he hit me up and asked me if I was coming out. I told him I just kind of down on my luck, just didn't have the money, and he put me on the guest list and said, "Dude, get out here." And I'm like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." You know, that's the kind of person that he is.
Now I've never met Sean Peck myself, but I would call him an acquaintance or a mutual friend in the sense that I've interviewed him several times over the years, and he always gives a great interview. He's always so friendly and down to earth, just such a super nice guy. And I will say another thing that I really dig about Sean Peck is, I mean, he's really supportive, with his bandmates. For example, in episode 5 of This Is Metal, we did an episode on Tim Ripper Owens, who most people know as the guy who replaced Rob Halford and Judas Priest. He did some recording with Yngwie Malmsteen and Iced Earth and some other great projects. And we did a show just on Tim Owens. And Sean Peck, not only did he check out the episode that we did on his bandmate Tim Owens, but he shared the episode on the official Three Tremors page, and he did it just kind of to support his buddy. You know, there's a show out there about him that about his bandmate. He wanted people to, check out. He shared it on the Three Tremors page, which I thought was really cool of him. He didn't have to do that. And episode 5 of This Metal wasn't even about Sean Peck. It was about Tim Owens. And I thought, oh, how cool that is. He's checking something out we did about his bandmate, and he's sharing it with his fans. I thought that was pretty cool of him,
Well, of course, too. They're involved in a venture together, and they support each other. Tim supports the things that Sean does, and Harry does the same thing with those guys. So that's the way it should be, man. They're just like us. They're just they're just true metal fans and true metal people. They're just down to earth guys like you and me, man.
Yeah, and in fact, in a band like that, you would expect there would be this, these huge egos, but really, there really isn't. I mean, Sean, in regards to Three Tremors, he told me that, like you said, they're all like really the best of friends. They get along, and he says and you would think, a project like the Three Tremors, 3 lead singers. You always hearing about guys having lead singer's disease. There's none of that going on. I mean, even
but those guys are all pros too. So
yeah.
It's not they're not on both ends of the spectrum. I mean that as a compliment. I really do. In the amateur world, you got guys that think their shit don't stink and think that they're really something, and they're really actually not.
Yeah.
And then you got guys like Axl Rose, who's been on top and around the world, and one of the biggest rock stars in the world ever, probably. And is a total asshole, and fans have alienated him because he's been such a dick to people. So disrespectful that he's burned so many bridges that he probably burned down half his fan base. But that's what I mean. These guys are neither, and they've all been well accomplished and successful in their own bands and their own projects, and and they're doing what they do because they love it, and it's good stuff, and when you go see them live, that's what you see on stage.
And we should also mention the Three Tremors is kind of interesting. I don't know how many people know this, but you kind of covered this in the interview you did with Sean that people will be hearing later, which is the kind of you got the 3 lead singers in the Three Tremors, which is Harry, Tim Owens, and Sean Peck, and the backing band is actually the Cage Band.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I don't think a lot of people are aware of that, but another kind of interesting thing. So far the Three Tremors have 2 releases. They have the first studio album, and then they have this thing called the solo releases, where it's kind of a disc where each of the guys sing their version of the different songs, and it's just kind of an amazing concept because they're only like 2 albums really into their career, and they made the second album so drastically different, but they did it in a cool way. That's like something I've never heard any other band doing, taking all the singers and doing a different version of the songs. That's just, keeping it fresh to me.
Yeah. To Sean's benefit or compliment, that was a genius idea. It really was. No, I can't think of anybody that's done that, and that's a totally unique, awesome idea.
And the Three Tremors, for anybody that doesn't know, this started out as an idea years ago. Where, if any of you remember that, like the debut Halford album by Rob Halford, Resurrection, there's a song on there that Rob Halford does like a duet with Bruce Dickinson. It's called "The One You Love to Hate." cool song if you've never had a chance to check it out. I really
that's awesome.
urge you guys too. But once they recorded that, they'd also done some live appearances with Jeff Tate, the original singer from Queensryche. There was some talk that, hey, let's form this project called the Three Tremors. We get Jeff Tate and Rob and Bruce, and they'll all do like an album together. And they were talking about it for years, never came to tuition, and nobody thought to copyright the name. And Sean kind of shared with me, hey, that's a great idea. 30 years have gone by, they never done anything. Okay, let's go with the name. Let's see what we can put together. And he told me, yeah, it's not like my original. I'm not the one that came up with the idea, but somebody else came up with it 30 years ago. But look at what he's been able to do with that idea,
Absolutely, yeah. He's built a strong foundation, and hopefully they'll be able to release a lot more albums and get back out there and tour, and we can give things back to normal, hopefully. One thing I would like to mention, though, Jason, that I didn't bring up in my interview is that Sean and I both sang on an album for a kid out in New Jersey. In 2012, the album's called Orbynot.
Oh, wow.
Orbynot. Try to Stop Me. It's just more of a 80s kind of commercial rock sounding record.
Wow.
And he sang a track on that. I sang a few tracks on that, and so that's one thing that we had in common also, for somebody that mutually knew the both of us.
Oh, that's cool. I wasn't aware of that. We'll have to check that out, Joe. But anyways, also anybody that knows Sean Peck, he's got a great sense of humor, and a perfect example of that is
absolutely.
Recently he posted this thing. He did kind of like a cover version of the Eddie Murphy song, "Party All the Time." Now, first of all, I got to tell you, okay, that's something you would a lot of metalheads would not expect Sean Peck to cover, but he did it in a way where, like I said, he has a great sense of humor, and he sings it. It's not. He doesn't even sing it in a metal voice. He sings kind of in a pop way, but first of all, you don't expect Sean Peck to do that, and when you hear it, it's kind of like, okay, this isn't metal, but I can get into this. This is something different. It's he's trying to be funny, trying to show his sense of humor, and it was funny because there are some people like me that just thought, oh, it's different, it's cool, okay, I can dig that, and then there were people that were talking crap because, hey man, this isn't metal, you're going soft, but you would have to at least to some degree know Sean a little bit, to get it, and he just likes having fun, man. He just likes to. And sometimes I think he
response out of people.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Sometimes I think he just likes to get a response, but it seems to work, and it also shows a guy can, have some fun and not take life too serious.
Right. Absolutely.
And then his latest project is Death Dealer, which is another great ensemble band he has with Ross the Boss, as many people know. He's now got his own Ross the Boss band, but people know him before that from Manowar, and he was Sean was sharing me when I interviewed him also recently, Joe, that he said when I was first putting the Death Dealer band together, I was always hearing the name Ross the Boss. I of course knew who Ross was from Manowar, but I really knew very little about him. I didn't really know the guy. And he says, the funny thing is, once we started working together, he said, and once I really got to know the guy, we're like the best of pals now. He says, but I knew very little about about the music or anything he did. But he says, the more we get to know each other, we're just the best of pals.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then what people don't realize about Death Dealer too is none of the guys live right down the street from each other. And the craziest example of that is the other guitar player in the band, Stu Marshall, amazing guitar player. I don't know if anybody's aware of him, but I'm sure a lot of people are. He's just an amazing, incredible, one of those guys really underrated. But he's a master shredder, and he lives all the way in Australia. And so so these guys are like when they recorded the new Death Dealer album, they're recording it from different parts of the world, and then they're emailing everything back and forth and piecing. That's the modern way of making a record these days. But see, you don't even have to be in the same town to make a record anymore.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Technology's advanced a long way, and they get together when it's time to tour and do stuff like that, or do video shoots and whatever else they have to do. And that's awesome. The new Death Dealer is awesome. Definitely get it. Get it while you can.
Yeah,
go and purchase the pre-order and get it. It's awesome.
Well, and I got to tell people, when I was talking about the new Death Dealer album with Sean during the interview I did with him recently, he was telling me that, because as I said, he's releasing it. He releases all his stuff on his own independent label that he owns and operates. And he's saying that the thing about his label is, he says, there's only going to be so much stuff released digitally. He says, we're all about promoting the physical product, which I love, because I'm an old school guy, Joe. I miss the days of going to the local Tower Records. I don't know if you remember when they had Sam Goody and Music Plus and all that. I could hang out in those places for hours, looking at the new releases, but those are the good old days. But he says, no, we're all about pushing the physical product. We're going to have a limited release of vinyl. And then he told me, like with the last Death Dealer, he wanted to do like a comic book thing with the last album, but he says the guy that they were going to have create the comic book, he was just taking too long to do it. He said, so sometimes you want to do these other things, you can't always do it, but he's like, since it's my label, that's what we're really trying to push now as a physical product. We're going to have great looking vinyl and everything. So, and he said we're going to have nice little bundles. So like Joe was saying, you could go on Sean Peck's site and you'll find all that information there, or even his Facebook page, because he's always on Facebook. He's always posting about his mini projects.
Yep, and that's Steel Cartel Records.
Steel Cartel, that's it, yeah. And I think he does it all from his house, but he's very involved in that. And so, and he was like telling me, which I can understand, who's going to promote your stuff better than you,
Absolutely, yeah. He's 100% right. The more that you can do for yourself, the better off you are. You really are,
Yeah, and I tell you though, Sean Peck is involved in. He got a lot of great people too working behind the scenes. I know that the publicist he works with, believe it or not, he also has the same publicist as Judas Priest and Michael Schenker.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So he's got some heavy people, helping him get the word out. But he doesn't need any help, because he's like a self-promoting machine all on his own.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so let me ask you now, really getting into the nitty-gritty, Joe, how did you first become a Sean Peck fan? I'm sure, like you were mentioning at the top of this, it was through the band Cage. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I first heard about Sean through the band Cage and through a mutual friend that we have on the East Coast. And he kind of turned me on to him, and I'm like, yeah, this is great stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started digging into his discography and listening to some of the Cage albums, and ironically, I could be wrong about this. This is something I never asked him, but I'd have to look it up or ask him actually. But I think he put his first record out a year before I put my first record out.
Interesting.
So
wow.
we started kind of doing the same thing around the same time.
Wow, amazing. And and I got to tell you, while I'm not like a diehard Cage fan in the sense that I could name like 10 songs, but I have listened to the music. I'm a fan of what he does. I'll tell you, the first time I heard Cage, I thought immediately that he sounded like I thought, oh, this guy's a Judas Priest fan. He has like a Rob Halford thing going with his voice, because he can reach those high notes and everything like that.
Sure.
And interestingly enough, one of the first big tours that Cage ever did was opening for Judas Priest, but it was when Tim Owens first joined the band. See, that's how long him and Tim had known each other. He says, I got to know him when Cage was opening up for Priest when Tim first joined.
Right.
And it's kind of come full circle. And so he's telling me also of other things he's excited about that Tim is currently involved with. He's in KK Downing's new band, which they're calling KK's Priest.
Yeah. I've seen the video. I think they did a show, or they played a few songs or something, or they released a few songs, and I was able to check that out on video, and I'm very excited and anxious to see what they come up with. And as far as new material, I'm sure that they're going over the old catalog of all the old Priest stuff, and picking and choosing and figuring out what songs they're going to play and all that kind of stuff too. But I'm real curious to hear what they do moving forward as a new band, and
Yeah.
what their new songs will sound like.
Yeah, because I mean, at least I give KK props for not just putting a new band together finally, but because he could have decided, okay, I'm going to put a band together. We're just going to go out there and do Priest tunes. But Judas Priest is still out there, so I don't know how much sense that would make. And a lot of people, okay, why would we go see KK's Priest when we could go see the real Judas Priest? So at least he's kind of giving us some new music and creating a different project. I'm not going to be stunned if he does like Metal Gods or something during the set, because again, people are going to want to hear a little something, I would think.
Well, once again, that you got to think about the people that are involved in this.
Yeah.
It's KK Downing, the original guitar player from Judas Priest. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, he's built a legacy for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, so it doesn't. He could call it the Turk Patrol.
Yeah.
It would still be just as popular
Yeah,
because he's in it.
Yeah.
And then he's got Tim, who's also a former Judas Priest singer, and he's got the drummer who's also a former Judas Priest
Les
drummer.
Binks,
so
yeah.
I mean, I think the people are really excited about it, and I think the people. I'm hoping that the metal community will support and embrace both.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't stand it when people start throwing mud and all these cheap shots and digs.
Yeah.
Why can't you be fans of both?
Yeah,
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Why can't you like both of them?
Exactly. Just like
pick and choose Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. Well, fuck, I like both of them. I'm not picking either one of them because I love both.
I mean, they're both great classic metal, but two different entities. And I'll tell you, like, unlike a lot of people, well, I'll tell you, when Rob Halford left Judas Priest, initially I thought, oh, who the hell could replace Rob Halford? But I'll tell you, when the Jugulator album came out, and I heard it, I thought, he doesn't sound a lot like Halford, but it's pretty good for what it is. And okay, I can get into this. I think a lot of times people have to listen to stuff with open ears. And then I've kind of followed Tim's career, whatever he's done since leaving Priest. So there's no reason you can't be a Rob Halford fan and a Tim Owens fan. Even Rob, from what I understand, has been complimentary to Tim Owens and some of the stuff he's done since Priest. Yeah,
from my understanding, that they both consider each other friends.
Yeah, and you don't get that too much, But yeah, so I think definitely, and then Death Dealer, talking a little bit about Sean Peck too. Death Dealer, I mean, you can definitely tell it's Sean, but as far as the voice goes, and it's the same voice from Cage, but like I know a lot of the Cage stuff he told me was based on like a lot of them were concept albums. They were based on like stories he'd written and stuff, or ideas he had, and so the Cage stuff's a little more conceptual, whereas both Death Dealer, I'd say, and the Three Tremors are more kind of really just metal based, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a concept.
Right. Yeah. He's great at that. Another thing that I could highly compliment Sean on is he's a hell of a lyricist.
Yeah.
He writes some really good lyrics. I mean, if you take the time to actually, again, buy the physical product, open up a Cage record or a Death Dealer record and Three Tremors and dive in and read some of his lyrics. He writes some really cool shit.
Yeah, I put him right up there with Ronnie James Dio as far as being a great lyricist. I mean, even if you listen to a new Death Dealer single, it's called Sorcerer Supreme. He was telling me a lot of stuff on the new Death Dealer albums, like based on like witches and wizards and stuff. And it's just amazing that somebody could create such a great metal song off of talking about dragons or demons or wizards or witches. But he's got the mind for that. And I'll tell you again. Talking about what a great lyricist Ronnie James Dio was, I mean, he was like one of the ultimate songwriters. I mean, I remember first time I heard Heaven and Hell, and I heard Neon Nights. That was like first Black Sabbath song I ever heard with Ronnie Dio, and it just my mind went to a different place like it never been. I was like I had demons and dragons in my mind, but that's how powerful that guy was as a songwriter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are the guys that just made the hair on my neck stand up. When I listened to it, I was just blown away. I was like, oh my God, what is this? I mean, I was just taken in by it. Dickinson, Dio, and Halford, and King Diamond. I mean, it was just like those are the pillars for me. And as much as I respect and love those guys, just for a quick second, going back to our conversation a few minutes ago. going back from my impression, listening to Tim with the Jugulator record when Priest put that out, I was blown the fuck away. I mean, I fucking loved it. To this day, I cranked that shit.
Now I remember when we did that episode.
That's to this day, that's one of my favorite Priest records.
Now I remember
I put it right up there with Painkiller and any other Priest album. And I know not everybody felt that way, but I'm one of the people who did. Yeah, I was blown away, and as a singer, I know when I listen, I hear what he's doing, and kudos to him, respect. He's got a hell of a voice, and it's a natural voice. It's not his head voice. It's not falsetto, and he's got a hell of a range and a lot of power, and he's a great singer. And I remember when we did that episode, you were telling me specifically that the song that really impressed you was Cathedral Spires. Now, talk a little bit about that song and why it meant so much to you. Well, I mean, it just embodied the whole Priest vibe, and it fit right in. To me, it was a logical step from moving from Painkiller, to the Jugulator record. I thought it sounded like a very natural progression to me. I completely understood it and completely connected to it. When I heard Cathedral Spires, especially, I was just like, holy shit! The melodies, the harmonies, the screams, well-written song. I mean, the vocals in it are just outstanding, and I mean, all you got to do is listen to it. That's all I can say. I mean, it's just like, holy fucking shit! Wow. It's that good. Yeah, and also Jugular, I gotta tell people, I love the title track. I love the single they did, Burn in Hell. And you're right, like, even though it was like 7 years between Priest albums, from Painkiller to Jugular, I think it was natural. It was worth the wait to me. Yeah, it was natural progression. And I was like a fat kid in a candy store with a sack full of money. Yeah, and I was not disappointed with Jugulator. I'll tell you. I thought, okay, it's not Ralph Hoffler, but this is a follow up to Painkiller. It makes perfect sense to me. Now I like the follow up album Demolition, but it was more like a little more commercial, a little more radio friendly, I think. But which I didn't quite understand why they didn't go more for a Jugulator sound on the second album Tim did. But I like both albums. But if I had to pick one, I agree with you. Jugulator was the best. Yeah, I mean, from a metalhead standpoint, I mean, and again, I've had these conversations with people that they like Priest the way that it was, and Halper's the singer of Priest, and and they didn't like Tim, and honestly, I don't get it. Like I said, I've put a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of learning, a lot of effort on my part being a singer. So when I hear a singer, if it's somebody like Tim and he's good, I take notice of it right away, and I realize that, hey, this guy works for it. This guy's got his shit together. Yeah, and and he does. Yeah. And he's a great singer. And getting back to Sean Peck, I tell you, I've interviewed him so many times over years. It is like when I talk to him every time, he remembers who I am. It's like talking to an old friend, because he's a super friendly guy, and he's also got, because he's been on the road so much, throughout his career, he's got great stories like you would imagine he'd have. Like he shared with me once. A great story he had. He said, he toured with Ronnie, like with the Dio band, with Black Sabbath, and he says, every time I would run into Ronnie or I'd see him backstage somewhere, he says, I've toured with other people and they refer to me as a Cage guy. Ronnie would always make a point to remember my name. He said, oh, hey, it's Sean Peck from Cage or whatever. He says, but I was never like the Cage guy. He would always make a point to remember my name, and Sean seems like he's the same kind of guy, Yeah, that I've heard the similar stories about Dio, that he had a mind like a steel trap. He remembered people. He really did. Yeah. And furthermore, he appreciated people and treated them with respect. Yeah, and it's now, Joe, I'm going to bring this up because I want people to know that. If you go to chaoticriffs.com, there's also an interview I recently did with Sean just about 2 weeks ago, and it was just posted. And I'm also interested in people hearing the interview you did with him, because it's kind of from a different perspective. Like I said, the fact that you guys are two singers and you're kind of chatting it up, and your interview is very different from mine. So I think people are going to enjoy listening to both. But I'll tell you a funny story, Joe, and that you recently shared with me about after you had interviewed Sean. He'd kind of, not even knowing you were going to talk about this, he'd kind of shared the same story with me.
towards the end of my interview, I'd asked him, "Hey, Sean, I was curious. What's the craziest thing you've ever read, or craziest rumor, craziest thing you've ever read or heard about yourself?" It took him a minute to come up with this, but then he was saying, "You know what? I'm a much calmer person now than I was when I was first starting out in the business." He told me some story about he'd had an incident when he was opening up for Iron Maiden during the Blaze Bayley era, and then I found out he kind of shared that same story with you. Do you mind telling the people about that?
Well, now since you brought it up, I guess I'm going to.
Well, yeah.
I wasn't there. I only heard the second hand.
Yeah.
So first, let me clarify that much.
Yeah.
But supposedly, and I don't like to talk bad about people. So again, let me reiterate that point that I was not there. So I'm taking this second-hand information.
Yeah.
So, but Blaze had made some pretty nasty comments about America and things like that. I don't know what was going on at the time politically or whatever.
Yeah.
But he made some not very cool comments, and Sean was pretty pissed off about it and blacked his eye over it.
Yeah, and again, I bring this up because you and I had done two separate interviews, and we didn't talk about what you were going to ask, what I was going to ask, and it kind of came up, and he kind of like snarked and laughed as he was telling me the story. That's the only reason I brought it up. If I thought he didn't want to talk about it, I wouldn't be bringing it up. But
right. Sean's, that's another area where me and Sean are birds of a feather, man.
Yeah.
We're both patriots. We're both proud Americans, man, and I salute him for that, and that's awesome. And if I was there and I was in the same situation, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, and it just shows. It shows two things when talking about Sean. It shows kind of his sense of humor, but he can look back, like you told me. I look back on that. It's not something I'm really proud of. I shouldn't have maybe done it, but
sure.
It was in the moment. He says, "I'm a much calmer person now. I wouldn't do that now." But again, I enjoyed him kind of telling me that because I wasn't really looking for any dirt. I was just looking because I've interviewed him so many times, trying to think, okay, let's pull a little further. Let's see if we can dig something out that I've never heard about this guy, which I was able to do because he's so open and he's so honest, and
right.
And that's the kind of guy he is, and I think it shows too that the fact that he can kind of laugh and say, "Well, I'm nothing like that now. I probably wouldn't do that." It also shows, okay, he's grown as a person,
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we all do, or we all should.
Yeah. And so I kind of, that's what I kind of dug about it, and I didn't really have to pull too much out of him. It just kind of, he offered that information openly, and he kind of like, I think he told you, said, "It's not something I'm super proud of, but okay, I got this one thing."
It happened and move on. Yeah, exactly. But it's still pretty cool, and it actually made me respect him even more.
Yeah,
so that's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is you would think that something like that, maybe at the time when it happened, it was all over the news, but somehow I never heard about it. So, but this just goes to show what kind of guy Sean Peck is, because Sean Peck is not like a Sebastian Bach where he's constantly trying to get his name in the media for saying whatever BS thing he can come up with to say, or what controversial statement. So he's not even that type of guy. And the fact that he's like maybe had...
Well, Sean Peck's a metal singer, not a drama queen.
Yeah, and the fact that he's like maybe only had one or two incidents like that, I think that speaks volumes about, he's more into his music and, and delivering the goods, as they say. And then, before we wrap this up, Joe, we were talking a little bit about KK Downing and Judas Priest throughout this, and also speaking about Death Dealer, I also recently had the chance to interview Ross the Boss. That hasn't been posted, but people be able to check it out real soon. But my point with this one, I was talking in another recent interview I'd done with Ross. He'd shared with me that KK Downing, he'd been out of Judas Priest for like 12 or 13 years, and while he's currently working on this KK's Priest project, that he said the first, the Ross the Boss band last year did some major European festival, and if people want to see this, they can go online and check it out. But the first time that KK Downing ever appeared on a live stage with anybody since he left Judas Priest was with the Ross the Boss band, and he told me, he goes, "Man, we didn't even, it kind of just came up at the last minute." He goes, "But man, what an honor. I was the first one he shared the stage with since he left Judas Priest.
That's awesome. That's huge, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm really looking forward to see what this KK's Priest is now. And then the final thing I do want to say, Cage. Cage is one of those bands I think that really, I don't want to say they're underrated, but like if
Why not? They are.
If you're a diehard Cage fan, you know about the band, but not a lot of people do, or they'll know it as a Sean Peck band or whatever. But and that's not a bad thing. But I could not believe when he was sharing with me recently that I don't know like what number album, but he said the Astrology album that Cage put out. He said that's just turning 20 years old. So, I mean, that's how long Sean has been in the industry. He's having albums that are 20 years old. So he's really made his mark, and yet he told me, you know what?
He's got a few older than that.
Yeah. And he was telling me, you know, okay, but new Death Dealer comes out Friday, people. Friday, November the 13th. How cool is that? How metal is that?
Very cool.
But he was also telling me,
so get on there and purchase your pre-order before that, though. There's some stuff, some swag, and some cool stuff that you get only by buying the pre-order. So definitely go to the Steel Cartel website and check that out. Look into it. It's called Conquered Lands. Death Dealer Conquered Lands. It's awesome.
That's great. That's great promoting it like that, Joe. You know about how to do that. And also, I want to tell people, as I know he told you too, Joe. Don't just get excited for the new Death Dealer album coming out in November. He told Joe, Sean told me that he's already got like the next two Death Dealer albums like in the can.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's a writing machine, and especially with this lockdown and everything that's happened, it's just given him more time and more ability to write and create, and that's what he's done. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff going on. Music-wise, and I think he's got another Cage record. I talked to him about that they're working on that. He's got a good chunk of that done, and the next Three Tremors record is also close to being finished, I believe.
Oh yeah, I think that's already in the can. In fact, I've heard that. Okay, this is another thing. Like Sean is really great at marketing. I mean, I told you how he kind of stole the. He took the idea that Rob Halford and came up with the Three Tremors name, and he kind of went with it. Well, the new Three Tremors studio album is going to be called T2. Now, what do you think of when you think of T2? Terminator 2 movie,
Terminator
maybe?
2.
Now, okay, he's not calling it Terminator 2, but you know what I mean. His mind's kind of going there, and that's kind of cool because people are going to just T2. Yeah, I've heard that before. They're going to go out there and buy the album.
Right. Well, the important thing with that is it's short, it's easy to remember, and it sticks in people's minds because there's an aura of familiarity with it.
Yeah, and Tremors.
So people have already heard that, so that's actually pretty smart on his part.
Yeah, and if you think about T2, okay, I get it. Tremors 2, second Three Tremors album. It's kind of a play on words, and it's one of those things where if somebody even had the crazy idea, let's say, from a certain movie studio that or James Cameron, I'm gonna sue this guy for using T2. No, because there's nowhere on there it says Terminator 2. It has nothing to do with that. So it's also a very smart marketing thing on his part, I think.
Oh, absolutely it is.
And then finally, the last thing I want to touch on regarding Sean Peck tonight, Joe, you were during your interview. He also put out this great full-length and I think a 4-song EP with this project called Dinner Sherman. It was 2 guitar players from a King Diamond band. And I know in your interview you got a chance to talk to him a little bit about that. So you know a little bit about that, more about that project. I've heard the CD. I thought it was an awesome CD. I think it's kind of a shame they're not going to go forward with it. But talk a little bit about that because you know a little bit more about that project than I do.
Well, I'll talk very little about it because I want people to listen to the interview.
Yeah.
But, it's a shame. It doesn't sound like that there's a big chance that that's going to be moving forward anytime in the near future. It doesn't sound that way. But, the EP came out and the album came out, Son of Satan, and it was on Metal Blade Records. It featured Michael Denner, Hank Sherman, Snowy Shaw on drums. He played on the album. He didn't play live with them, but he did record the album with them. And Mark Grabowski on bass. And it sounds like classic Merciful Fate, as you would think it would, or King Diamond. But I think even being a huge King Diamond fan, I think Sean did an exceptional job with it. And again, you can tell it was him being him, but he was stepping into a new role, and I think he did a great job doing it.
And see, I wish
that there was a chance that that band could continue and put more records out, but it doesn't sound real promising.
Yeah, and the only thing I'm going to comment on that, out of all these projects we've been talking about tonight that involve Sean Peck, okay, Cage, Death Dealer, Three Tremors. Okay, these are all projects that they're like his bands that he started up, bands that, he's the main writer. Now, with Dinner and Sherman, the interesting thing about this, it's almost like this was not Sean, this is a band he joined. It was Hank Sherman and Michael Dinner. It was their band. Because I think Sean was a King Diamond fan. He wanted to work with the guys. But it was very much their band, and he was hired to be the vocalist. He was involved with some of the writing, but it was mostly... Hank Sherman and Michael Dinner's project, but that was kind of interesting too, because again, it wasn't necessarily his band; he was joining somebody else's band, and that's what made it kind of unique. Whereas these other bands, Sean kind of has total control; he can kind of do what he wants in a project like that.
But with Dinner Sherman, they did give him freedom to write. That's one question that I asked him, and I will talk about just briefly. He was given creative freedom, when he was the writing that he did, the lyrics and the vocals, the melodies and stuff, that was all Sean.
Yeah, and then I know Sean was a King Diamond fan, but I've seen him kind of joke, and I was talking during an interview I did with him recently, because I seen him posting stuff about King Diamond, like the fact that if you're a King Diamond fan, you've probably seen that a lot of the classic King Diamond stuff has been being re-released constantly and reissued, and Sean was kind of sharing with me or joking like, I'm a King Diamond fan and all, but I think the guy needs to, if he's not going to put out something new, he's got to at least stop just re-releasing old stuff with different colored vinyl. Give us something a little different.
Right.
And finally, Joe, how big, while we're on the subject of King Diamond, I've always been curious, because I know you're a real metalhead. How much of a King Diamond fan are you, or did you ever get into King Diamond or Merciful Fate?
Oh, absolutely, man. He's one of the pillars, like I said earlier, man. For me, he's always had phenomenal musicians. The guys in his band are always just like top-notch, insanely talented musicians. And I love that the classical style of playing, and the way it lends itself to metal is just awesome, especially in the guitar department. And I've always loved his stories. I'm a fan of his voice. Some people aren't. Again, that's falsetto. That's a head voice. That's not really, it's different than your conventional singers like Halford or like Tim. That also sing high. Those guys truly have power in a higher range for their voice, and that's their real voices. As to where King Diamond is blending a natural voice with a head voice or a falsetto voice.
Yeah. So and Merciful Fate is.
But I love it. I love it. I'm a huge fan of it.
Merciful Fate is one of those bands I know that Metallica cited as one of their early influences. Now, when you got into King Diamond, I was just kind of curious. Were you more into the music, or did the fact that he was made up have any influence on you getting into the band?
You know what? No, the whole theatrics and stuff, it's cool or whatever, but I can take or leave that. He could come out in jeans and a t-shirt for all I care. I mean, I get it. I understand the whole stage show and everything. But, like I said, again, I appreciate the music and the vocals. The stories that he tells are awesome, and that's just really, really killer shit. But, I could care less about his makeup job or whatever else he's doing. That's neither here nor there for me. But I mean, I get it. It plays into a part of it, just like it did for Iron Maiden, just like it did for Kiss, just like it did for so many other bands that decided to take that route. and go with a big theatrical stage show and whatnot. And I think that's awesome if you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you can afford it, great, go for it.
Yeah. In regards to King Diamond, I was curious. Do you have a preference? Like, would you say you're more of a Merciful Fate fan, or would you say you're more of a fan of his solo stuff?
Boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
I like both of them a lot.
Makes sense.
But if I was held at gunpoint and had to pick one or the other, I would probably pick the solo King Diamond.
Oh, makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
the Conspiracy album, that's one of my favorite albums. I absolutely love every song on that record. That's such a great classic ass-kicking metal record. King Diamond Conspiracy. Yeah,
we'll have to do an episode on that maybe one day, Joe. But I want to end this Sean Peck themed episode by thanking Sean Peck, first of all, for just putting out great classic metal. And like I said, I've known Sean. I've never met the man, but I've talked to him several times.
Yeah, Sean Pecktober, baby. Pick up the new Death Dealer.
Yeah, and he's just always super nice, friendly guy. And I want to, Joe and I want to thank Sean for being a fan and supporter of what we're doing with This Is Metal. So thanks, Sean. And I can't wait to see what you think of this episode we just did. And before we wrap this up, Joe, is there anything you got left to say?
Yeah, today's a sad day in the world of rock as we lost Eddie Van Halen today.
And Joe was sharing with me, he didn't actually share his story with me yet, so I'll be hearing it for the first time with our audience. But when you and I were discussing this before recording the show tonight, we were talking about the fact that Eddie Van Halen passed today. Sadly, finally lost his battle with tongue cancer. And what's interesting is I wasn't totally surprised when I heard the news, because I'd known he'd been battling cancer since 2000. I heard today that was a story that's going out, and he'd been getting treatment. And last couple months, been hearing stuff about he was going back and forth between the U.S. and Europe to be treated for it. David Lee Roth a few months back made an announcement. I don't think Van Halen's ever going to get together. It's not not my story to tell. It's Eddie's. And then this came out today, so I wasn't totally shocked. But for years Eddie's been kind of telling this story about the way he had like throat and tongue cancer, and then I guess what ultimately killed him, they said, was the cancer eventually spread to his brain. And but the story Eddie was kind of telling her, he was thinking, he seems to think that he got tongue cancer for all these years of having a guitar pick in his mouth. I've never heard of such a thing, but that's what he was saying.
Yeah, maybe there's something to it. Maybe the experts or people he was talking to maybe mentioned that to him. I don't know. Yeah. I've never heard of that either. But again, like you said, he was going back and forth probably to some of the world's leading experts in cancer. I'm sure it was Eddie Van Halen. I'm sure he had the best doctors that you could possibly have.
And the fact that the guy's been battling...
somebody probably told him that along the line,
Yeah, and the fact the guy's been battling cancer for last several years. I mean, since 2000, they said that's
God bless him. He was a
fighter,
a master at his craft and trade, and many guitar players ended up picking up the guitar because of that man.
Yeah, and I want this is just kind of breaking the day, but I want people to know Joe and I have talked about we're going to be doing a This Is Metal tribute in a few weeks to Eddie, but to do it the proper way, we want to really be able to do it right. So I think it'd be too hard to do it on the day the man dies. So we're going to kind of have that respect, but eventually you guys will be hearing a This Is Metal tribute from me and Joe. So we just want to let you know that's what's coming up, and thanks for listening to This Is Metal. Seems like each episode gets better and better, and we thank you guys for checking us out.
Absolutely.
So thanks again, Joe. I guess next time when you and me record, Joe, and we record a show, we're going to be doing a tribute to John Bonham of Led Zeppelin, because just this year, 2020 marked the 40th anniversary of his passing, and I believe September 25th was the actual day that he died. So we're going to have that to look forward to next week. So I look forward to talking to you next week about John Bonham. So thanks for always being part of the show, Joe. We love talking to you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Okay, bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye. Take care.